I appreciate the work that you do. It's not easy, so just joining the chorus in gratitude. My questions are mostly focused around equity, family, and community advancement. It's great to meet you, and thank you again for your leadership. Our office sought to connect with every single family liaison in our district. I think we met with about, 15 of them out of 17, and they are quite literally the front lines of each individual family and student's needs, and we thank you to Gabriela Ramirez, who is my outreach and community manager. She met with all of them and created a really comprehensive list of just various needs, and I'd love to share that with you. I know it's not something that, or it is something that you already know, but I just want to put it on record. So 8 out of the 15 shared that they have families on the homeless list. 9 out of 12 shared that housing and food insecurity are the top issues that families are facing. Some schools have a food pantry, and others are looking to start one and would like to be connected with potential resources or partners that could help kickstart it. A majority of them shared concerns with the misunderstanding that families have that BPS is going to solve all of their issues and has all of the resources on hand to fully address their needs. Emergency response for liaisons isn't clear, and they struggle to find resources for families. So for example, the Patrick J. Kennedy in East Boston, there was a family that was displaced by a fire in December, and the family didn't have a place to sleep. The Bradley has had emergency situations where a family doesn't have anywhere to sleep that night, and just recently there was a tragic fire in East Boston that displaced about 20 families. And the O'Donnell School right now is going through an incredibly difficult time with the loss of a young student there. And I'm literally texting right now with the social worker who is a rock star, Vivian Rodriguez. She is amazing. She's providing housing support to the mother right now. And so I think that it's clear just here, and I say that out loud to say exactly what some of your liaisons are dealing with. And other schools are higher need than other schools. I mean, my district is a tale of two cities. We have well-resourced schools in the North End in Charlestown, and then we have the PJK in East Boston. And so the inequities are quite visible. And so I'm wondering about the $950K in housing stability and wraparound services that is listed in this presentation here. I would love a breakdown of these funds, and can you just expand what this is paying for and if it's going to help some of these family liaisons with the challenges that we're seeing manifest in my district?
Thank you so much for that question, because really your question hits to the core of the work. And the way that you shared the inequities even across this one region is really representative of what we see across the city and across our district. So I really appreciate that very specific way in which you encapsulated a lot of the things that we know we struggle with as a district, and that we rely on the partnership with the city in order to address all of those needs of our families. We couldn't do this work alone. The family liaisons cannot and do not do this work alone. And one of the shifts that are happening, not only was I a principal for years in the Roxbury community, I also worked with Tommy Welch as a school superintendent, and was fortunate enough to have spent most of my time in Alston Brighton. Shout out to that community, and Roxbury. Those were my two areas. And understanding even the complexity of differences across communities is something that you articulated really well. I would say, so yes to all of those things that we are very hyper aware of, especially the ways in which, when I think about our migrant families that recently arrived, and the way in which the team, and I have to say, led by Chief Sanchez and her team, they literally wrap their arms around the families in Melnia Cass in a way that I am forever grateful to that team, and is indicative of how, when the city and the district and social workers and family liaisons, when we all come together, the power of really changing children's lives can actually happen. And to your question around those disparities, those are the things that we on a daily basis have to face. And I'm glad that it's on the record, because it being on the record means we all collectively take responsibility for ensuring that our families receive what they need. And that's the continuous work. That's the everyday work. That's every hour, every minute work. And I know that that's the work that all of us in this chamber are most passionate about. I know that the teams that we have are passionate. Vivian is a great example. We have many Vivians. And then we have folks that are really new to the position. Even within the 17, if I were a gambling person, and I'm not, but if I were, I would say even among that 17 that you were able to receive stories from, many of them, like their years of service in that role varies. And then their ability to connect with different agencies varies because of their experience. And even being able to, there are schools where the family liaison, the social worker, they're all part of what they call the student support team, right? And every school has a function that looks a little bit different, but nonetheless, those two have to be lockstep with one another. And I'm actually gonna also ask Corey to jump in this response, because the family liaisons and the social workers are really a team in most schools. That's not to say that that's true in every school, but that's the goal, and that's what Corey and I are consistently working on. Even the two of us, having opportunities to do a lot of cross-departmental work is really critical for us too, and I'm so joyous that you actually brought this to the forefront today. Corey.
Thank you. Can I just add something in there before you jump in? Thank you. So I guess my ask and my encouragement is to level set. So for our high needs schools, like the BJK, putting in 2 liaisons, because the work is just too much, and they have too much, even though we have a social worker. So 2 family liaisons or 2 social workers. So just please consider that, and please consider paying them more, because they simply are not, and that was something that they also brought to the forefront for us. And then also professional development. So a lot of them don't know what the city provides in terms of services. I had to tell them about the Office of Housing Stability. I had to tell them about the Office of Food Access. And once they found out about this, they were overjoyed. And so now they're able to connect families to these sort of resources. So talking about professional development, that's just something to consider. Sorry, I wanted to add that.
Actually, Corey, before you take that on, I love the fact that you're sharing this, because it's also really important for all of us to also understand the structure of support. So for example, family liaisons have family engagement facilitators assigned by region. And right now I'm blanking if it's Eleni or Lisette in East Boston. But nonetheless, every single region has a facilitator that is responsible for answering all of those questions. So for our newer family liaisons that may be really new to this role, it makes sense to me that they may not know exactly where to go and what to do and who to mobilize. There are a few things that we have to hold ourselves accountable for. One, if that school leader is not someone that's a resource to the family liaison, Tommy would need to know that. If a family liaison is struggling, I would need to know that so that I can speak to the facilitator. I think these are things that are really critical, so that we, instead of trying to figure things out, exactly what you're doing right now, collaborating with me, so that we can make sure that the resources, the information, and the ways to connect across really happen in real time, because our families can't wait. So I am absolutely going back to my office and checking that out. Because I want to know what the facilitators are actually sharing with those family liaisons, that they didn't know that really critical piece of resource. And that's something that we can always improve on.
And thank you for that response. I really appreciate it. And I know how hard you work. And they do feel supported. I don't want to misrepresent what they were saying. It's just that they just don't have certain information, or it seems like information and resources that are available to them have not been made clear to them, or have on an infrequent basis. So.
And we can always improve communication. That's like key. And always improve the professional development. They receive professional development on a monthly basis, and it can always be improved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey, I don't know if you wanted to respond, and I also know the breakdown of the 950.
Yeah, the 950 for housing stability. Thank you.
That's our contract. That entire amount is our contract with family aid to run the fund, to run the program.
I also want to identify that there is in previous years, we did not have the ability to stabilize families the way we do now, thanks to the city and BPS. for allocating those funds, and all of you for allocating those funds so we could support families in real time. Before, you'd have to wait a very long time. You'd have to make you'd have to call you folks and everything. Now we have boots to the ground, whether it's our social workers, our family liaisons, having the immediate conversations, which triggers certain decisions that have to be made for families, where we have to assess what they need. And I think sometimes we underestimate those assessment pieces and what family needs. And I think to Dr. Tavares' point around the communication, like, we could always over communicate, right? And then turn that around to support the greatest needs of the families, whether it's not just housing stability, but instability as well, and recognizing that before it happens. This now gives us a broader capacity to identify what families need when it comes to housing, and then having the financial resources to accommodate. I'll give you an example. If there's a fire, this is some of the behind the scenes and on the interweb, our interwebbings of communication, where we are saying, hey, how can we immediately, who do we contact? How do we contact them? When can we get them services after they've been identified? And then sort of those, that sort of web of communication, typically, thanks to everyone involved, typically lands the family in a situation where they're able to get a voucher or get some additional support.
Thank you.
And I just have a follow-up question. Is the $950,000, is that housing vouchers? Like what actual service